Well, I'm really excited to have John Casey as my guest today. But John, you like to be called Jack, not John. So Jack Casey.
Yes, ma'am.
And you are on my show called Stories Worth Telling. And the story I like to tell is that my mother at the age of 92 didn't feel like she made a difference in her life. So what I've tried to do is to get people to document their stories, talk about what your passions have been, and find out a little bit about you so that you can have it as part of your record, your legacy. And currently I'm running for state rep for East Lyme and Salem, so I really like to interview people of interest, so people who are veterans in your work and your service. So thank you for your service. I really appreciate that. Jack, you and I have had a little bit of time to talk and get to know each other, and I'm glad to know that you're an Irishman. And my mother was so proud of being Irish. She said, if you're not Irish, what should you be? I said, I don't know, Mom. She said, ashamed of yourself.
There you go.
Which, of course, is not true, but, you know, it's just a cute little thing that she used to say. And currently you're living in Groton City.
Yes, ma'am.
And tell me, you first enlisted in the military. What was
I
it?
joined the Navy Reserve in 1963.
Okay.
And when it come time to do my 2 years of active duty, I went to Newport to go to school to be a dispersing clerk. I pay them. And then after 3 months there, they sent me here to the base. And that was the first time I'd seen submarines when we were kids, the silent service at Friday nights. So now I got to see the actual submarines from World War II, the sailors that had served there, and that it was really remarkable to be here. So.
Well, that's quite a legacy, too. Just the idea of being on a submarine. So you were deployed?
Oh, not on a submarine.
No, on a submarine.
I'll always be ashore, but I'll pay them. And at the time, we were paying them by check. So I had to calculate their pay. They'd get pay every 14 days. And the checks would be made out and then sent down to different submarines would come up and pick up a block of checks. And that's how they got paid. When I got to Vietnam, they paid in cash, military payment certificates. Funny money.
Funny money.
And the biggest bill was a $10 bill.
So you get quite a stack of bills.
And every time we'd go on a run in Vietnam, we'd be carrying $30,000, 45 and an M14. And we'd travel helicopters, trucks, planes to go further up toward the demilitarized zone to pay the different people that belonged to Naval Support Activity Da Nang. So I had a chance to go all over I-Corps, all the places where Agent Orange had been used so that it looked like a jungle with no trees, no greenery, no anything, going up rivers. Once I was going up the river and I saw them dragging something, and I asked them, what are you dragging? They said, the anchor. I said, excuse me, but don't you supposed to pick up the anchor? And they said, we're dragging that to catch any mines that are in the water and try to, when they come to the surface, we'll shoot them, blow them up. I felt real good. But it was amazing, you know, the things that you learn there. And I'm lucky. I'm 74 years old now, but so many Vietnam veterans are dying every day, especially from Agent Orange, up to 600,000. That's 1 in every 5 have died of Agent Orange. My brother, the Marine, died 2013.
So 7 years ago. I'm sorry for your loss. Yeah.
And my youngest brother, all of us have 100% disability. So you pay the price. But the things I learned there and the things that I do now, like you're asking me, is I can get on the World War II, the Army and the Navy memorials. So I asked for a copy of the discharge papers that tell me all about your military life. And then I put that information on the memorials and the ribbons and medals that you were awarded, and then I send them to the families. 20 years, 54,000 and counting. And it's something. I love military history. So I got to see these people that made the history. Now I see them as on their funerals. I used to, as Patriot Guard, go to the funerals at the request of the family. Now I'm the one that gets the discharge papers, writes up a synopsis of what this person did, and then when they publish the mission for the ones that are going to go do the funerals, they tells you all about the person you're there for. And then in the background, I'm doing that and then mailing it off to the family.
So it's such an important thing that you do because you're honoring the person for the work that they did, the service that they provided to our country, and letting the family be aware of it and to recognize that and to
Well, especially World War II. If you ask them, 90% of the people that were in World War II, if you ask them what their mother or father, what did you do during the war? Oh, the real heroes, we didn't do anything. The real heroes are the ones that got killed.
Right.
Well, now you'll be able to figure out what they did. You'll be able to go on there and see the battles that they were in, the casualties, why they wake up in the middle of the night screaming, you know, and it's important to learn what they did. You know, that wasn't something like you watch on TV or go to the movies about. It's, you know, you're risking your life. When you sign up in the military, it's up to and including your life. And the ones going now, you make out your will. If you're killed, what do you want done? So knowing that before you go to Afghanistan and Iraq, some of them up to 7 times, it's like crossing the street without looking both ways. Each time you try that, there's a chance you're going to get killed doing that. Well, that's what they're doing.
That's very sobering.
Oh, it is, because when you look at, I'd see the National Guard going off. We'd go to the Armory when they were being sent off and the Patriot Guard were invited. And we'd be standing in the flag line and I'd be looking at them, and somebody asked me one day, when you look at them, what do you see? I said, well, sometimes I think, does their mother know they're out late because they look so young, and yet they have a chest full of medals? As we were breaking the flag line and they were breaking formation, one came up and shook our hand and he said, every time we leave and come back, you guys are here. I said, we're always praying for you. He said, it makes a difference. This was one that was going for his 7th time, and he survived. But their families are in flux while they're gone, you know, and every day if you hear something, a bombing or something like that, you're wondering, is it yours? You know, and this has been going on for, my God, 13 years now, so.
Well, every war goes on longer than it feels like it should.
Every war there's a price for it too, you know, so. That's what it is, you know, the chance to, I had the chance with American Warrior to fly down to Washington to stand there and listen as they talk with each other about the war when they were 18 and 19 years old on D-Day, taking them ashore, later on taking in the replacements, picking up the dead, taking them out to the ships, and to be able to listen to what they said, you know, and this is 1944, 1945, and now it's 2010, 2012, and they never said a word. I cannot understand how you could go that long without ever even saying anything. It was as if they just came back, they built the schools and the roads, and they took care of their families, and eventually they got to retire, and then a chance to go to Washington on a trip for a day, and then finally hear them talk about it. And then on the way back, each would get a manila envelope, and it would have 12 or 13 letters from school kids, from family members thanking them. And all of a sudden it would get deathly quiet on the plane, and then the crying would start. Somebody said thank you. So that's what I do.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your service, and thank you for what you're doing now, because I think sometimes our military are not as respected as they should be, and that we need to honor our service men and women wherever they are for the work
almost
that
every
they've done.
family in America, either if it's now or in World War II, your parents, your grandparents were in World War I or World War II. So I make the offer, you find me the discharge papers. And because they're passed doesn't mean anything. You have to file a copy of your discharge papers in order to get a veteran's exemption on your property tax. In some towns, I've seen them all the way back to the Spanish-American War. In scroll, trying to read, what the hell does that say, you know? But I mean, you find them. I know how to get them. I have a letter from the Commissioner of Veteran Affairs, and it states that I can go into town hall or city hall and ask for a copy of the discharge. I have a badge with a picture on it, and they all know that I'm the only one that'll come around and do it. And then I go home and I transfer what I see onto the forms. And then they get approved, and I add a picture if I can get one. A lot of time it's the picture that's in the obituary. And then I read the funeral page and count how many people it says. Kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, sons, daughters. And I'll make up that many of them. And then I'll put them in an envelope and I'll mail them off.
Nice, very nice.
And sometimes you get, you know, they'll get a thank you, they're called up, you know, we didn't know about this. You know, well, I'm just somebody that knew how to do it, and it got me on the Connecticut Veterans Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Well, then they found out what I was doing. So that's the only reason I got on there. It's not because I did anything great other than, just recording your history so that you'll be able to see what happened.
Well, it's just so important. I mean, people don't recognize perhaps the value of that information until later on in life.
Oh,
and
yeah.
just having that validation, I think, is really important.
Well, I'm hoping someday when they mention the wars, if they ever do, that the grandkid or the great-grandkid says, this is what my grandpa did for America.
Right.
Somebody remembered, because your own family will know who served in the military.
Right.
But then after your family, who else will know that 1% of the people in America serve in the military and 99% don't? And they're usually the ones that moan, groan, complain and that. But they said, up when your chance was to put your hand up and say, I do, what did you do?
Right.
Did you run to Canada? Did you do whatever, So.
Right. Well, 3 of my brothers served in the military. One was in the Marines and the Army, and then the other 2 were in the Army. So it's just such an important legacy for people to be honored for the work that they did. And tell me about what it's like when people come back. You said WW1 or WW2, people came back and really didn't talk about it.
No.
Has that changed? I know that there's a fraternity, it's still the same.
Well, during the flights, it was American Warrior. Now the new one is Honor Flight Connecticut. They'll start back up again next year. But they would never say anything, because 2 weeks before the flight at the Norwich Senior Center, they have a divider. So it's an enormous room, 250 people in there, the family and the veteran. The one thing the family wants to know, are you going to feed them? Yeah, 3 times we're going to feed them. We're going to make sure they have plenty of water. My job, each one of us would have 4 or 5 veterans. Your job is to watch out for them, make sure they're fed, water. If they see something they want, tell them, no, there's no way in hell you're going to pay for it. You paid for everything I got. So we'd do that, and then I would tell them, I'm going to show you something. You're going to bring me the discharge papers. Sometimes they would bring them on the morning of the flight, which I asked them, please don't do that, because now I have to worry about them. I'm going on the flight. I'd have somebody else that would hold them. I said, now I'm going to be able to find out where they served, what they did. And now you're going to find out, why do they wake up screaming in the middle of the night? And I was saying outside before you got here, we went to the funeral as part of Patriot Guard. And she said, Mom and Dad are inside, like they're in the other room. And I know he's dead. And so we go in, we pay honors to the wife, we're sorry for your loss. We go back outside, we stand a flag line. We're nice and quiet as people go by. We're standing a flag because we're honoring the person that took care of us. And she come out and she said, my dad couldn't show love. And I said, can I offer you an opinion? She said, yes. I said, your dad was a squad leader. So he carried a Thompson submachine gun. He was responsible for 14 to 16 people. Now, from D-Day all the way till Central Europe, they'd get killed. The message was just a Western Union message saying they got killed. That's what the family got. He would usually write a little note and send it back to the families. The replacements would come. They'd get killed before he even knew their names. This would continue all the way across. So what he found out was he can't love somebody, because if he loves them, they die. So why, when he comes home and he raises you and makes sure you're fed, teaches you everything, sends you to school, he's afraid if he shows love, you're going to die before he does. She said, I never thought of that. I said, I'm just offering you an opinion of what he went through. So that's the things that you don't know.
No, of course
you know, Dad or Grandpa went, you might be lucky and find a picture. You find me the picture of your brothers, get the discharge papers. If you can't, tell me where they lived. Wherever you live, you file a copy in order to get your veterans exemption. It's still there. I can go get them, put them on the memorial. You tell me how many copies you need for the whole family, and then I'll give you an envelope with them in. And then you'll get to see where, what. So that's the idea. I want to show you what they did for America.
Absolutely. So you must hear some very interesting stories of, yeah.
There's some of them I read it, and I wonder how in God's name, because I know about the battles. I love working and reading military history. Of some of the battles, you have a chance in hell of winning. And all of a sudden, somehow they do it, Or that some, in order for the other ones to evacuate, stays and passes up his life. It's not that they hate the enemy in front of them, it's that they love the ones behind them, up to and including to die for them. And it's amazing. Some survive. Most of the time you see somebody that gets the Medal of Honor, it's somebody that's deceased. And you wonder and you learn these things of who they are and what they did. There's one that was in Iraq, I believe, and he went back in a burning vehicle to rescue his friends, even though he was getting burned alive. He's going to be changed, hopefully, in the next few months to the Medal of Honor. But the things that they do, it's unbelievable that a human being could do it for another one. So if we could transpose that, what they do in war, to what you do here, to get along, to make it better, you know. So
True patriots, right.
Yeah.
Very caring about each other. And how can we help them as civilians?
The easiest way is say thank you.
Thank you.
Last week I was in Woodstock. They were giving out boxes of food. There was 2 lines. My job was to make sure they had their mask on. Please watch in front of you as you go up. They put the food in your car. They put a gallon of milk in, and you keep moving. And there was a little girl, and she was smiling, maybe 5 or 6 years old. And as they moved away, she said, "Thank you for your service."
Somebody raised her right, huh?
Oh, yeah. You got to wipe your eyes, but then you continue on.
Right, right, right.
Do you know how many people have never heard somebody walk up and say thank you?
I try to whenever I see anybody, and you know, sometimes it's just their T-shirt or their hat.
Oh yeah, that's the way it gives it away, you know, and to know what it is. You've seen Easy Company, 504 Parachute Infantry Regiment. We're 95 and 395 split going north. I watched the car go across in front of me to go up 394, and it said 504 PIR. That's one of the ones I've read about. That's the one. Some of the ones you saw on HBO. So it's amazing, you know. A lot of times there, to recognize it, I say as an example, you get to a traffic and somebody's crossing the street, and they're in the walk, so you got to stop. And somebody is not moving that fast, you know, and then you say, "Come on, can you go a little faster? I'm in a hurry to go." You never know if that's not a Medal of Honor or a Silver Star. If you happen to see the hat, you may see it on there and recognize it, but you don't recognize that, you don't know that till you see them. Same thing when you stand in line. Somebody's having trouble with the ATM, turns around, and maybe the shirt or hat tells you all about him. Do you feel like an asshole because you said something to hurry up and then find out it's a war hero standing there? There's so many of them that you don't know. You never know who you pass, what they are, what they've done or anything else. You know, I always say I hold the door open, you know, after you. They say thank you, and I say I always hold the door open for a beautiful woman. And they smile, you know, and if you can make somebody better that day, or going through the line to get a coffee, you see one behind you and then see it's a veteran or something like that, and I tell them, "Here, whatever they ordered, put it on my card, just say I said thank you." That's all.
Right.
How hard is that?
It's not hard, but I think we're needing more civility in our world right now than we ever have before, at least in my lifetime.
Well, they got away from it. It's like everything else. You didn't lose it, you just got away from it. Somebody told you things that aren't true about your history, about your nationality, your race, your color, or anything else. When you're in a war, there's no people that aren't praying when they're getting shelled or rocketed. Everybody's, "Please God, let me get home."
Right.
Nobody cares if you're white or black or yellow or pink or anything else, is that you can shoot that gun and all of you together to survive as a group. That's all I ever learned as a kid. There would be times where people didn't have enough money to pay the rent or enough food to make it through the month, and we all shared because we all survived as a group. Nobody had to give up. Nobody would get on the dole. That was the worst thing in the world. That meant you gave up. So we do things differently. We take care of each other. And that was Irish and Italian and all that, you know. And I've got more different nationalities in my family than the United Nations has. But you learn, you know. Everybody is a human being.
That's right.
Remember, if you want the best way to understand that, God made them, not me. And he doesn't make mistakes.
Right.
So when you're really ticked off at something in the world or somebody remember, God made him in his image. So, but what do you do now? My wife keeps telling me to slow down. And I keep saying, I made it to 74, and I'm putting down the ones that died so that you'll remember. And every day they're there. This is the anniversary, somebody got killed. I looked and nothing's been done for years on it. So I complete it, I make sure the picture's there, and then I post it on Facebook. Faces that have fallen.
Nice.
Just so somebody will remember. Doesn't cost you anything.
No, it doesn't cost you anything. But it's such important work that you're doing. So thank you for all of that. Because that has to be a little heart-wrenching, I would say, at times.
Oh, at times. Sometimes, you know, it's... My father died when I was 7. And my mother taught me that Irishmen have a special sense, you know, that you don't give up. So there'll be things that'll be asked of you to do. And you do them because that's your job on earth. So you work on that. And there's times there, you know, you must have things where you do something and maybe it doesn't work out or somebody doesn't appreciate it.
Keep trying.
What was the greater gift, to do it or to expect somebody to pat you on the back? If it was to pat you on the back, then you didn't do it for the right reason. So I see so many different faces in that, you know, and different things. And I sit there, I can read discharge papers and understand what they mean and convert it into English so that you understand what it was, where they were, and see the different faces of young men. I was doing 5th Marine Regiment one day, and it was getting a little bit much because I've been where they are as I see it. And so I took a break, and I got lunch, and the dog was beside me, and I turned on the History Channel, and the same ones that I was entering upstairs were dying on the TV. That was the same battle. In addition to being there, so I know where they are, is the names I just did, and I'm watching them. And that sometimes it's overwhelming. Either I'll stop for the rest of the day or I'll wait a while, then I'll go back and do it. But I've been doing it for 20 years. So
you understand it. Is the history that we're seeing on the television and the movies that they portray, is it anything like the real experience?
When they did, we were soldiers once. It was the 7th Cavalry, named after like Custer. And in the battle, it was like 200 or 400 of them against 1,000 or 2,000. I saw the officer that was actually in the battle and the newsman that was with him and the characters that would take their place. And he said, about 85% true. And then we did the parade because I think it was 25 years since the wall was built. And then my friend and I, we went to eat in Arlington, and there's 50 Styles restaurant. So we're sitting there, we look over, there's an older couple, and they're having a sandwich, a cup of soup each, and a half a sandwich each. And he says, you guys Vietnam veterans? I said, yes, sir, we are. Both sailors, and he was one of the 3 company commanders in that battle. He said, did you meet the general? Yes, sir. That's how the things match, that you learn all these stuff and that you see these people. It's important. Things will happen and it'll make sense that it's a small world. And the things that you didn't think you'd ever have a chance to see or do or talk to, they come about. And there's a reason. You're supposed to be there at that time to listen and tell people what you saw. So that's why I figured each day that's what I'm doing.
Well, good for you. So you're archiving the history, and is some of this going into the National Archives?
No, my part is just the memorials. The Washington Memorial, the World War II Memorial, has, I think, out of 14 to 16 million people that served, there's only 2 million names on there. The Navy Memorial has 700,000. That's right behind the archive. And then the Army Memorial's outside the gates of Fort Belvoir, Virginia. I was supposed to go to the dedication, but it still hasn't happened because of COVID. And I'd love to do that and then go see the Marine one at Quantico. But that's separate from everything else. There's people that interview veterans, and it goes in the Library of Congress and that.
Which I think is just such a wonderful thing that people are doing.
Yeah, it's just something else in addition to what you've seen and heard of. Because if you get 100 people and ask, does anybody know what I do? Maybe 15 out of the 100 will, only because they've had dealings with me.
Now, you said that you give tours sometimes. You'll be down in Washington.
I did the American Warrior with the trips. I did 9 out of the 11 trips. The last one, I believe, was 2012, 2013.
But you don't like people to yell your name and say hello.
Don't say hijack in an airport. So we'd be laughing, and I'd be telling them a different memorial, where the bathrooms are, where water is. a Marine memorial, the steps are black in color. And I'd say, stay away from the steps. There's ramps. And I said, now when we get to the airport, we get inside, and they have to go through security, don't say hijack. Because they'd say hijack laughing, and then all the security people would start coming over. You
Their
know?
eyes are
I say, my name's Jackie. They're just saying hi to me. That's all they're saying.
Yeah.
But it was so wonderful. The people, 1,000 people would be waiting for him in Washington as the plane unloaded.
Isn't that nice?
And then when we got back to Bradley, there 1,000 to 2,000 people, their family, reenactors and all that were there. And my Patriot Guard were lining up on both sides, so they had to walk through all the flags. So I was in the front of the group trying to move them along. I know what's there. And when we got up close and I seen all the people, I said, Jack, what are all them people there? I said, they're here for you.
Well, and I think we should do that more when the submarines come back, or when, but how do we find out about that? How do we make that possible?
You'd have to find a way to get on the base for a submarine, but you could always line the river. And it's only going to be for a few minutes. As it comes up the river, there's 12 or 13 men on the sub, up on the top of the sub. Now, there's over 100 below. So you're only going to see it for a few seconds, but the National Guard gets sent overseas and comes back to places all over the world. You can go up there. That's the thing that's open to the public if you want to go.
I just think that we should make it more of a public event when...
If they announce it.
When our,
the easiest way to find out that a submarine's coming back is Easton Point Beach.
Okay.
If you see a bunch of families waving flags down there, they know the submarine's coming back. And if you were to go over and go in the front gate, it's usually on the fence that spells out the name of the submarine that's coming home.
Nice.
But it's a big secret. Don't tell nobody.
Right.
But it's fantastic.
Well, it's just, it just seems like it's another thing that we could do. We need to say thank you. We need to find out if you've been given the services that you were promised just at discharge. And then when people do come home, to be there and to welcome them back.
Well, that's why we're doing the packages. When I do it, I put down, if you're missing ribbons and medals, how to get them.
Yep.
What things were awarded by the state of Connecticut. Don't forget the veterans exemption on the property tax. You got to go file for it. It doesn't happen.
Right.
When somebody dies, they tell you all this stuff during the week between when they died and when they're buried. If you would have asked the wife the next day, and she'd say, I don't remember anything. It was just all blank.
It's a blur. It's
to
a
go over
blur.
and explain that stuff to them and say, all right, when you're up to it, you tell me. I'll tell you how you get the gravestone, and benefits. If your husband died as a direct result of Agent Orange, the compensation that he was getting, you should get.
Nice.
Anything
Jack,
you can do to help.
Yeah, Jack, we just have probably 30 seconds left. Any final thoughts?
Just be an American.
Be an American, be a patriot, be kind, be gentle, be respectful.
There you go.
And help each other out, I think.
If you're not Irish, I got green paint. We can help you out.
Well, yeah, and there's nothing better than a good Irishman, so that's great. So thank you so much for being on my show.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.